the resources, etc. And talking about maximization, um, there's a critical subject of energy that is now has again now plagued our country again. Um, I, I don't know whether it's as if we don't. Well, I don't want to say we don't learn because I'm not a government and I'm not even a government official. But I guess we're all Ghanaians and everybody needs to be very much concerned as to the direction in which a country is going. And if you take a look at the state of our country the last 2 decades, it's as if we don't seem to plan and prioritize. And you talked about priority in your submission concerning the open defecation along Ghana's beaches. Now, we're in a current state in which the West African gas power plant or gas pipeline can give us, is it 500 million cubic feet of gas? And as a result of that, we're going to have extreme shortages. And these shortages would mean that already we're having difficulties with our thermal plants. And it means we also need to readjust, and the ECG will need to enforce more its load shedding exercise. What didn't we learn? Is it just because we didn't envisage?
Well, I think first of all, let's look at the issue as it stands now before we look at the broader picture.
Okay.
The reality on the ground is that if you are aware, the Daily Graphic especially has been publishing the water level at Akosombo and Bui.
And the Ghanaian Times.
And the Ghanaian Times. And I think the reason why they've been doing that is to more or less let us know that, look, the water is not rising as expected. So you need to expect that we are not going to get a normal power supply. Beyond that, if it comes to gas, which has become, a good alternative, it's not been very reliable, especially if you look at the source in which we are getting gas from. Today, as we speak, we are being told that there's a labor unrest at Nigerian Gas, so they are not going to work and we are not going to get gas. So you cannot give any other reason than to deal with the reality on the ground. And what it means is that as a people, we will have to adjust and more or less deal with the situation. But I think you asked an important point. Why are we here? Why didn't we expect it? And I think that question goes more or less to define us as a people. It goes to define our position as a group of people who, quote and unquote, are underdeveloped. Why am I saying this? One of the important or one of the most relevant characteristics of what a developed nation or a group of people who more or less are deemed to be advanced is something we call what? Foresight. Your ability to forecast. It's not about now, but being able to forecast what is going to happen in future and coming up with mechanisms or strategies to address it in future puts you in the better position than somebody who is not able to do that. And I think as a people, we've not done a good job when it comes to what energy is in terms of what forecast. Because most often within and I think it's even starting with the NPP. If you remember, there's a statement that was made by Haruna Idrisu that the adundum or whatever it is. So it's become a political issue, and it looks as if we've not done a good job in trying to address it. Look, energy is something that you cannot see yourself to be a developed country if you cannot address the issue of energy. Do without it. I mean,
because it's the backbone of your development.
As a matter of fact, it's the pivotal point around which any developmental aspiration revolves around. You cannot be seen as a serious country if you do not have energy. This morning when I was coming, and it looks as if it's been consistent because almost every morning my home I don't get lights. So what do? I have to always iron before the next day. So I think something seriously needs to be done about it. And it's unfortunate for me to say that, look, even though government has done very well in investing in this Etwabo gas plant, I think there are certain investments that we've done that, as a matter of fact, I'm not very happy about. Roland, let me give it because this Bui Dam that we invested in, even though the amount of money that was put in is something that was quite colossal, what was expected of, but are we getting that much from Bui? Let's face it. Are we getting that much from Bui? We've talked about solar. Solar, as we speak, as a country, have we made any sacrificial amount? Have we put any significant to say that, look, Ghana is going to become the hub of solar energy in West Africa? I think we need to look at the longer term. I can tell you for a fact, 5, 10 years from now, we'll still be sitting here talking about energy crisis because we do not have what? Foresight. We do not forecast. It's not about dealing with issues today. It's about being able to put in mechanisms that will address future issues tomorrow. And unfortunately, and quite regretfully, in our contemporary democratic dispensation, we seem political parties seem not to be in a position to do that. Because if you do that, if you are not careful, you'll not be able to win the next election. So I think it's unfortunate, but I hope and pray that, look, this Nigeria unrest should be resolved as quick as possible, but we should be looking at alternatives aside Nigeria. The Tuabu gas plant, I don't know what is going on, but I hope it comes on well. But you see what is
it's completed, but
it's meant to be ready by end of the year. Apparently.
Well, we hope, but you see what is also interesting is that it looks as if we are banging all our hopes on
Which
that
is
thing.
obviously
If it happens, it looks as if it's going to be a panacea.
No, according to what the experts say, it's even inadequate. We're still going to have electrical. It's only to power, I think, one of the TICOs. I think so. One of the T's.
Yes. You see, the truth of the matter is that I think that we've become a country of talkers. Everything is a talk shop.
Meaning we don't have the plans.
We don't.
We know what the problems are, but we don't have the plans.
Yes, because you see, if you have an archive of maybe a similar program 15, 20, 30 years ago, I'm sure that the panelists will be talking about the same
that would have been on
issues
GTV,
Yes.
because then we didn't have a lot of
Exactly. And I think that we need to sort of project a new generation of thinkers in our political discourse, one, and even in our industry and in the public sector. Because if you're not able to do that, and it's business as usual, we will do a great disservice to the people of this country and generations to come. Because what we are consistently doing is to even sort of degrade or downgrade the quality of life of people that generations that will come. You know, because even though I'm not that old, I can say for a fact that maybe 20, 30 years ago, the quality of life for the average Ghanaian is better than they're having today. You see, so especially in terms of energy, where we have a situation whereby in terms of our balance of payments, we are always in a deficit. You understand? And we have issues with our currency, we have fiscal problems, monetary problems, because we consistently import more than we export. And now, any right-thinking administration or government would consistently drive a situation where we would have enough energy to boost small, medium, and then even large-scale industries to make sure that we can produce enough to export. But as we sit here today, if you go to Tema Light Industrial Area, factories are shutting down because they don't have adequate energy.
Actually, many have shut down.
Yes.
Laying
So
off workers.
it's like we go through a vicious cycle, right? And most of the things that happen to us as a people is actually self-inflicted. Because you go and you have a Eurobond for maybe $750 million. Whilst on the other side, it's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. On the other side, policies and programs that would actually make these monies coming into the economy beneficial to us doesn't actually inure to our benefits, because in the final analysis, we take it from there, and then another hand takes it from there, just because of our own ineptitude. And sometimes it looks like the people at the helm of affairs actually bereft of ideas. You understand? And it makes it extremely difficult to sort of understand how we'll get out of this present-day quagmire. Because you know this thing about even ECG, for instance, last time when we were talking about the compacts and all that, whereby I said to you, if ECG does not sort of, in terms of diversify and even seed its administration and
in
everything,
terms of management.
Yes, to the private sector, well, business as usual, because they're even bangling, they can bangle.
Then we're going to have the argument of inefficiency.
No, yes, they can bangle, doom so. They come back and tell you that, okay, for us, this is the schedule, we will take it off at this time, and even that, they cannot stick to it. You understand? And this is inexcusable and it's unacceptable in this day and age. So I think that we need to move away. Sometimes politics is good, but sometimes I feel that we need to move away from the parochial political affiliations and interests to actually say it as it is. That if the guys over there and the people in charge of our energy sector do not have what it takes, right? Do we have the confidence that these guys have what it takes to project our energy sector in the next 10, 15 years? If we are not confident enough, get rid of them. Get competent enough people to go in there. Because we're in a country whereby we can cede everything to the Chinese and the Indians and everything. So what's the big deal about probably ceding it to them if come 5, 10 years time, you have a thriving energy sector?
Well, Dr. Jinapor, do you think that the politics of the times has served us in a more disservice way than it has perhaps brought us together and given us that very consciousness that we need to move forward as a country? Let me just put it in another way. Do you think that perhaps because we have only two parties, then the ideas are always between who does it best and who can do it well? And because we're always going to have a contest of ideologies and ideas, we're always in a difficulty as to whether we need to do a transition from where somebody left off or a party left off onto the other. And how has that affected?
I think just to answer it very simply, I don't think it's done as a disservice because you are looking at it vis-a-vis whether do we have when we have democracy as opposed to if we did not. Because I can say for
that
a
we're
fact,
better off.
Yes, I can say for a fact that if you look at as a country where we came from relative to other countries like North Korea, Malaysia, Singapore and all these countries, you can say for a fact that look, most of our governance system has been based on dictatorship, and as a result of that, I can say that it's one of the reasons why we are where we are today. So democracy in itself is the best option where you can have people sit down to express themselves. And I think Eric alluded to the fact that look, 20 years ago, and you said 20 years ago it would have been on GTV, and 20 years ago myself and him wouldn't have had the opportunity to sit on this platform.
If you had the opportunity, I'm sure you would have been picked up.
But I think look,
gray hair with
the issue is when you talk about NDC and PP, look, with human nature, I mean, even from creation, it's always been the two sides. You go to, I mean, the scriptures, we talk of what? Adam and Eve, you talk of what? Good and evil, you talk of right and wrong, you talk of black, that. It's always been that case. But as to how we manage it is what is important, and I think that is where
how do we manage it?
That's where I was getting to. That's where we as a people have been a little bit faulty. Why am I saying it? And look, we are growing as a democracy and we'll get there. Why am I saying this? The fact of the matter is that I believe there are certain critical aspects of us as a people or as a country that we should always look at how we can have bipartisan consensus in addressing it. One of them
in addressing critical issues, especially energy,
education. You understand? Health, issues of security. Look, there have been
we shouldn't compromise.
No, we shouldn't compromise.
It doesn't matter whether it's NPP or NDC.
It shouldn't take political tone.
There should be always a transition.
That is it. We've had instances where it comes to national security. You see John McCain strongly behind Barack Obama. John McCain, who contested Obama, I mean, a big-time, GOP man. You see, so I think we have not done a good job in managing our politics, and it's characteristic of a developing country. You find people dealing with personalities instead of issues. And very quickly on this energy, I do not have the expertise when it comes to energy, but I think as a country we also have to be very, very careful not to be too harsh on ourselves. I don't think Ghana has done very bad, even though we can do better. Why am I saying this? Look, Nkrumah, of course.
So despite all difficulties, we've done
reasonably well, but there's room for more. Why am I saying it? Look, we've been able to put up the Bui dam, which for me, I think it shouldn't have been a hydro, what do they call it, plant, especially if you look at where we are as a people. I mean, our water bodies are shrinking. Why is the Akosombo Dam always shrinking? Because of human activity. I come from Bupe. You go to Bupe when I was a kid, at the Black Volta. It was so huge and it used to overflow. But today, human beings have built so much that the water is shrinking. You know, so today as we speak, I would have wished that 20, 30 years ago, we should have had a gas plant that would have been powering all these things. But as I said, look, today, myself and you are prepared to sacrifice. We are prepared to adjust our lives to what, to deal with this issue. But my worry is that if we are not careful, 20 years time, our children will be going through worse situations worse, because we do not have the foresight and we do not have the vision to address these issues in future. I strongly believe that, look, once we address these challenges, we need to have pragmatic bipartisan approach in looking at how we can address the energy issue in the future, 10, 20 years from now.
The last week I was just asking the energy minister, Emmanuel Amakofe-Boa, they are going to. There's a talk about bringing two barges, and we're going to have a Turkish company. They're supposed to have an off-taker and all those things that we're talking about, and it's supposed to supply about 450 megawatts of power. Well, the thing is, we seem to be doing things in a piecemeal, and
just to address the immediate situation.
So, what do we do as we look at the short term, medium to long term, and not just always going about, oh, we're building thermal plants here, gas pipelines, etc. But I mean, we come before the people of Ghana and say, this is the strategy. At 10 years, this is what we're expected to achieve. By 20 years, this is what we hope to overcome.
You see, the thing is that I think you basically took the wind out of my soul. We need to have a plan. And like you said, there has to be some kind of national consensus as to the direction that we want to head. And for me, sometimes it's imperative that government, and especially this particular government, is a bit more candid with the real situation on the ground. Because, you see, if we are able to, we can surmount this particular problem maybe in the next couple of weeks. And then guess what? In terms of government discourse and rhetoric, yes, we managed to stem the problem. And then within another 3, 4, 5 months, we get a similar situation. So be candid with the people of this country and tell us the true state of our energy sector. Then you can get buy-in from the people and say, okay, this is our plan. Short term, medium term, and then long term. This is what we want to do. Get the buy-in of people, get a commitment, show commitment, right? Because I think that we also have a problem of prioritizing in this country. Now, we're a country where, and even in any country in the world, you do not have an infinite amount of resources, right? So you prioritize. You take key sectors of the economy and then you upgrade it to a certain level so that it creates some kind of synergistic effect going forward. But for us, what we do is that government will touch this. Government will touch that.
But isn't also because of the politics? Because
yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
We seem to think that after a term or 2 terms, after my government is voted into power, the party thinks that these things were not done well, so these are going to be our priorities.
Yeah, but that's what
instead
I'm saying.
of continuing and consolidating whatever has been done.
That is why I'm saying that we need a national consensus, which means that it cuts across party affiliations. You understand? And this is what we want to do as a people. You can go the Chinese way, whereby
I do understand you, but how do we get consensus? For example, when we had difficulties with the economy, a major party is invited to a round table. They said, oh, we've said it before, and so we're not going to go. And that creates that level of consciousness among the people. And they have huge followings that, well, because our side is not there, we are also not going to party. It doesn't, it doesn't bring...
I would say
it doesn't bring the consensus you're talking about.
I'll say something quite controversial here today. And I think that we need a paradigm shift in terms of the way we do our politics in this country. And I'm an MPP, bona fide, but I can tell you for a fact that across the two political divide, right, we need a new face of our Ghanaian politics, right?
A new thinking.
New thinking. So that my brothers or sisters on the other side and people on our side will say that, listen, for us, we're a new generation of politicians. We're a new generation of Ghanaians. This is what we want to do. You understand? Because if we are not able to do that, we would sort of disappoint our own generation and then generations yet unborn. You understand? Because it shouldn't be politics or as usual, business as usual. We need to be able to move away from the pettiness and then the little parochial and then entrenched position to say that when it comes to issues of energy, education, and that we don't do politics with it. And it can be done because the things that
It can?
yes, it can be done because
Well, it doesn't seem like
no, it can be done
that's going
because
to be the
listen,
the,
we are
the
maturing.
consensus from now to 2016 and even I
We are
think
maturing.
up to 2020.
We are maturing as a democracy. You understand? So the various, established democracy that we are learning from, right? When it comes to, he mentioned something like national security, right? When the issues like national security, education, even on the economy, there will be divergent opinions, right? But almost all the time, the underpinning is the same. You understand?
Right.
So you can agree to disagree, but we need to move away from the business as usual and make a difference to the people of this country.
Yesterday, I heard the president, I think, on radio and TV stations, say the MCA again, saying that it's going with the energy project that will be implemented under the MCA when the money starts coming in, it's going to resolve all our energy problems. Again, we're back to the same subject of saying things will be done right. And
well, I hope it does, but
it's a hope.
Yes, I hope it does, but you see, the point is that this MCA is a compact. It's money that is going to be pumped into the energy sector, and it's supposed to be
project.
It's supposed to be a booster. You understand what I'm saying? It's supposed
More
to
like augmenting.
Augmenting, but
it can't be the panacea.
Its sustainability will depend on us. What we do to more or less keep it in shape. You understand? So let me give you a typical example, and with specific reference to MCA. Have you seen the George Walker Bush? What do they call it? The highway. It's a very nice place to. I use it almost every day. But at the end of the day, it was supposed to deal with traffic congestion. But what happens? We have traffic lights on that distance. So if it happens that we have lights off, the lights are not working, right? The traffic lights are not working. What is going to happen? We are going to have traffic congestion. Do you get what I'm saying? So the argument that I'm trying to make here is that at the end of the day, most of these funds that are brought in, they are supposed to serve as a booster. But our responsibility is to see to how we can sustain them. That is where we normally have a bigger challenge.
Okay.